This is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are committed to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. So, I'm asking, are white Americans afraid to give up white privilege? I believe that there are white people in America who don't realize or recognize that they do have privileges that black people don't have. Now, these are privileges that white people take for granted. They just take for granted that you can drive down the road minding your business and the police is not going to stop them because they're not doing anything wrong. Black people can't make that assumption. You know, you see the police coming up behind you and you think, oh, let me get out in the other lane and get away from them because they'll find something on my car or some reason to stop me. White people don't have that fear. Like the police come behind them, they think, oh, okay, they're trying to they're looking for somebody else. They're not looking for me. So they don't have that. And that's just one example. When they go into a department store shopping, they don't have to worry about somebody being suspicious that they're going to steal something. Although the FBI says the number one shoplifter is a white middle-class housewife. But when they look for potential shoplifters in a store, they don't look for white women. Their main target is going to be black women. We know of black people who have been stopped and searched in some cases because somebody thought they had stolen something. So that's the privilege that they have of being able to live their life normally without being harassed. And these things could take many forms. I just named a few of them. They can take many forms. But it's white privilege that they have that they don't even recognize. What if they had to give that up? I'm just going to go over some examples of white privilege so that if in the event you're in a conversation with a white person and they say they don't have white privilege, then you can point these things out to them that yes, you actually do, because you can live normally and not have to worry about these things, and we can't. And just to show you that I'm not making this up, the information I'm about to share comes from the Microsoft Copilot. White privilege refers to the unfair societal advantages that white people have over non-white people. It exists across major systems and institutions as well as everyday interactions. The term was coined by activist and scholar Peggy McIntosh in 1988. She described it as the unspoken advantage that the dominant culture, white culture, has over people of color, mostly black people. Here are some examples of how white privilege can manifest. Number one, shopping. Imagine looking for a foundation shade that matches your skin tone. If you're white, you likely don't fear that your shade won't exist. I never thought of that as white privilege, but I guess it is. But you can go to any department store, any makeup counter, and you will see a number of different cosmetics companies that make makeup for white women, and they will have, it seems like they will have 50 to 100 shades for white women because their skin tones aren't exactly the same either. But for black women, you are lucky if you can get 8. And if you're very light skinned, you can actually go into the white line and get their darker shades. But if you are really dark, you can forget it. They are not going to have a shade that's not going to make you look ashy. So that's the privilege of being a white woman. You can always find your shade of makeup. Number two, legal system. White individuals often face less suspicion, harshness, and profiling by law enforcement. And I don't have to convince anybody of that. We all know about that. Number three, education. White students may encounter fewer stereotypes and biases in educational settings. Now, we know that the educational system in the United States is not fair and balanced. And we know that predominantly black communities do not receive equal funding, equal resources. Even in population, sometimes those schools are overcrowded and there are too many students in a classroom. And then the teachers don't have the resources that they need. And then when they get ready to apply to college, very often they don't have the preparation that they need to really successfully complete a college course. So there is a lot of discrimination in education in the United States. Number 4, employment. White job applicants may face fewer barriers due to their race. Well, that is an understatement. Even if you have the wrong sounding name, or if you have a name that the company decides is a black name, then they decide, I'm not going to hire you. Or they will hire you and keep you on for a certain period of time to satisfy the Office of Economic Opportunity that says that you have to have a diverse work environment. They will mark you down and say you're too assertive, or they'll mark you down and say you're not assertive enough. But they will come up with some phony reason to fire you after a certain period of time. So they won't allow you to get real job security or tenure on that job. And then they'll hire another group of black people for 3 years or so, let them work and let them go. That way they can always get the work out of you without giving you the maximum amount of money and without allowing you to get job security. Last but not least, number 5, representation. White people see themselves widely represented in media, literature, and history. And that is correct. And these are just broad categories where white people are overrepresented and black people are underrepresented. So that can be in the government, in politics, in the media, you name it, they are going to be overrepresented in this society. So these are just 5 ways that white privilege manifests itself in our society. In some of these cases, like in dealing with the police, education, and employment, I don't believe that white people should have less privilege. I believe black people should have more privilege, that our privilege should be balanced. It is the responsibility of Americans, and that includes white Americans, to look at the situation instead of burying their heads in the sand and saying, no, those black people are just complaining. No, they're not telling the truth. The police are great. They really need to be willing to listen and accept that we're not lying when we say there is an imbalance and that they have more privilege than we have. And that this white woman pointed it out first. Although we always knew it, she was the one that came up with the words white privilege. And Jane Elliott goes all over the country talking about white privilege. So at a point, America has to stop, look, and listen. Look how it's treating all of its citizens, not giving one group of citizens less privilege or taking something away from them that's fair and right. But it means looking at the other group and saying, we need to make some changes. We need to perfect our union. And that's all we're saying. If I were a white person, I would not want to give up being treated fairly. I wouldn't want to give up not being harassed. So yes, I think they would be afraid to give that up. But they also should be willing to look at the other citizens in America who don't have their privilege. And then we need to make the change. It's astounding to me that people like American white people want to see themselves as good people, as fair-minded people, as people who have a love of God in their hearts, and they don't know right from wrong. It's astounding to me that they can live in a country with people and see things happening and turn a blind eye and say they should have done better. It has to come back on this country in some way at some time. white privilege is a concept because we know that all white people don't experience all this great white privilege. But the things that we have to go through with, even the most random white person doesn't have to go through some of these things that black people have to go through. And that is where America really needs to take inventory before it's too late. Okay, y'all, let me know what you think about this video. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.